Hi y'all be listening to the Blue Sea. It's me, way back in this one piece. Hey man, y'all know it's crazy today. Alright, for especially for me, y'all know how long I've been talking about cypherpole as a whole, the world government plans, and to not always believe what we read in panels and blah 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 blah. Y'all know what time it is. I'm gonna try not to get too hyped so I can keep it concise, because y'all know how I like to get on tangents. I almost live stream today. Like, that's how serious this chapter is for me. Jump cover. The contrast between Luffy's design and what pirates represent. You can't ask for anything better. And it looks very similar to that art style that was used. I forget the person who drew it, but they redid the Zoro versus Mihawk fight. That's what that reminded me of. And then we got the chapter cover itself with all the video game references, and Luffy being Ken Masters, man. Y'all know I talk about for references, right? Especially for fights. A lot of times I bring up wrestling because I know it'll be on that, and he even talks about wrestling in SBS that I read about 2 weeks ago, and Marvel, man, Marvel series and Street Fighter Third Strike, and so seeing Luffy as Ken Masters, man, Daigo versus Justin Wong. If you know, you know. There it is, and then Zoro being Link. Link is more of a simp, like Sanji. Although there was the Shigi situation with Zoro where he had his little simp moment. Let's not front like he wasn't simping for Tashigi initially. He even scolds himself about it. But when I see Zoro being Link in recent memory, right? I think it was after Get a Reverie, matter of fact, on Jay's channel, I want to say. Braga was out there giving everybody the Kaido treatment, man. He was low different everybody with Link. And shout out to my boy Recon. You already know. You my boy. But he was giving you the work with Cloud. He was hanging in there though. But man, that was nasty. That is. And from my understanding, he's not even better than ZFB, or they're all on. There's like what he looked like in that stream. He looked just like Kaido or Roof Piece, man. Just low different everybody. Then you have Frankie being Donkey Kong, and Robin, I guess, being Morgan. I know Morgan's a vampire, but I always forget her name because her design looked like the Black Maria fight, and I was like, oh, I didn't even put that together during that time. I just thought more of a like devil or demon or something, and Sanji shooting guns is just that to me would be hilarious. Just, I don't even know why, but it would. And I guess Brooke is some kind of Castlevania or some other video game reference to me. There was that one game maybe it was a couple years back with the skeleton dude. It had the dope music. I forgot the name of it, but I know. I don't know. And then the design he put more design in the Usopp and Nami's headsets than a lot of people put into anything. The amount of detail. I thought it was dope. And so I guess the whole thing is like a Smash Bros. Thing, or maybe video games in general. I wasn't really sure which one, but it was dope to me. Maybe I don't know. But when I see other One Piece do other media, or see One Piece somewhere else, it always feels really cool. Anyway, enough of that. We open up in the reception area. I couldn't remember what the name of that was called back during the chapters when we had the numbers flipping. Like in my video that I used the cross of the game board, right? And it was in the shape of a cross. And we talked about this stuff in Cypherpole. We've been talking about it for a minute. And we see someone on the phone, right, speaking, right? We don't know who it is at the time, right? Someone's just explaining that they've seen a second dragon that matches Kaido, which I talked about before, that when Momo was flying around, well, Cypherpole would know, right? Because they're not, Kaido in dragon form doesn't mean anything because there's no way they've never seen that before because of how long he's been around, right? And that's pretty much confirmed. Like they've seen this before. We just hadn't seen it before in the story because we weren't in that part of the story. And it's interesting that the right off top, like what we mentioned back in the Who's fight, right? With just Cypherpole being there, right? And what Cypherpole is basically saying on the phone to each other, like, look, there's a dragon fighting against Kaido. And there shouldn't be another dragon. So this has to be the situation with Dr. Vegapunk. But my thing is, if that fruit was made, right, and there's only one, that at least we can assume of, they would have had to see Momo and like because they don't really talk about all that much right during Punk Hazard and Dressrosa, the situation with Momo. They just knew, right? Dofi knew what was going on. It's just interesting that even in adult form, he was able to look and recognize like, oh, that must be the fruit, even though we don't have any recollection of an adult dragon at all. I guess just based on the color alone, maybe it was a dead giveaway. I don't know. I thought it was interesting though. And, the person on the other end basically says that part is not even. It don't even matter. I'm like, how does that not matter? But hey, according to him, right, it doesn't matter. Just let everybody take each other out. And then we see it's the Derby hat Cypher Kai. Y'all know I've been calling him that because he hasn't given these guys names yet. So Derby hat Cypher Kai. He asked the person calling, I'm like, why did you call? What do you want? Not like that, but well, apparently they have orders that if Kaido were to lose, which the person on the phone says they doubt, that the world government will annex Wano. Annex? We have reached. Okay, look, I'm not gonna jump to conclusions, but y'all know probably Monday, Tuesday, you're gonna be hearing from me. We got way too much. I almost live streamed today. That's how serious this was. Had I had the proper time or preparation, I probably would have. Just to talk about Cypher Pole alone, because y'all know I've been bringing this up for 30, 40, 50 chapters, months, right? How often I bring this up because how pivotal they are and what they represent and who they work for and how not to always believe characters when they say something on panel. Now, I'm aware new orders are coming down, right? But at the same time, there's no way that the world government didn't plan for this in the first place. And I'll tell you why in a few, because it just doesn't make sense what's being said. This is what I'd be saying with a character can be telling the truth or either in a half lie way like Usopp, or they just straight up don't know what they're talking about. But since we're the ones reading, we have to assume that they do, but that's not always the case, right? Or things change. But the odds of this plan never being in place at all really would make zero sense to me. And I told y'all, we talked about that I wasn't buying that they didn't care about the end result of this battle. It just wouldn't make any sense to the power balance to begin with. Not alone, we don't still know all the reasons why Wano are special, right? And then the situation with the kind talking about that they're never going to Wano. And I told you guys when I referenced it to Vinland Saga, even though it was for a different reason, his behavior was very similar to Askeladd. Now, whether Akainu was aware of all this prior, because of what I talk about in my video about why he could be in Sword, most possibly is in Sword. He's just a throw off to because of his behavior, right? This gets really deep. Them talking about annexing Wano. For all this time, they've never tried to take Wano before. Probably, right? That's how this is part of Ryuma's legend, right? This isn't the first time. Why are they waiting till now? What are they aware of? So, because the odds are, whatever is in Odin's journal, there's no way the instruments messenger saw him. But based on that, how that character is being perceived by us and the way the character is being portrayed, I'm under the impression that everything in the story, from a knowledge standpoint, instant messenger Psalm is aware of, right? So when these events happen and stuff, these paths start crossing, especially when it comes to this fate and parallel journey situation and inherent will in a sense, there's no way the instant messenger Psalm would not be aware of these kinds of things, especially when we know the world government does business with people they're not supposed to in ways they weren't. There would be no way for them to be helping Orochi this whole time, going back and forth to Wano and the situation with weapons, and they didn't have their own agenda, right? Because it's just crazy, right? But anyway, y'all see what I mean. I'm already getting off topic. I mean, I'm not off topic, but you get what I mean. There's more important stuff in this chapter, and so they always have ships on the way. And this is to my point. Why I was just explaining why this statement doesn't make any sense. Why would you not care about the end result of this battle? Because clearly, depending on who wins, has a influence on how you approach your decision for what happens next, right? So if they plan on Kaido losing, they just sent these ships, they just sent these people to die. Not that they wouldn't do something like that, but that's essentially what you're telling me. If you think Kaido is just not going to lose and he's not supposed to, and you don't believe that if you're the world government, then why send the ships? So you already had a plan. It was just like Kaido said earlier. The government thinks they have something. This could possibly be SSG on the way, and we get to see what SSG is actually capable of. And honestly, from a threat standpoint, them being able to perform successfully in Wano, whatever SSG is, would seem a lot more threatening than Kobe taking whatever SSG to Amazon Lily, because they're a threat for a different reason. They have a different purpose in the story. So I don't think a character like Kobe, who's on a double agent mode situation right now, would be taking new threat threatful technology that basically would do something similar to what Jack did in Zoe and just go there and wipe them out with technology where even top fighters have a hard time competing. And it would make more sense to do that in Wano, because if you're trying to test something out, this battleground would be perfect, right? Because it's away from the world. No one can see what's going on. You can control who gets in and out of Wano at the same time. You can control the narrative. You can control everything, right? So no one would even know, like other pirate crews, unless important spies were there, like whatever spy Blackbeard has there, or whatever informant Shanks has, and stuff like that. There would be no way it would catch people off guard. And by the time they heard about SSG in the news, it'd already be too late, to where, from a technological standpoint, pirates would be scrambling with each other trying to crack the code on how to deal with this SSG threat. So that's kind of like where my mind's going, for these ships to already be on the way. If Rob Lucci, who we find out that's who the Derby Hat guy is talking to, if these ships were even be necessary. That's why I mean, this is really iffy. Similar to when I didn't believe that they weren't interested in the outcome of this battle, there's something more to this part, to me anyway. I could be overanalyzing, but it's Cypher Pole that we're talking about here. And then we even seen that now the numbers have changed again from 12K to 8K, when the last time chapter I remember, the same one that I was saying about, where I used the Game Boy as a thumbnail, that they have the shape of the cross on it, they were like at 16K to 9K or something like that. So even now, we've had some more numbers change. You know what I mean? And I'm guessing some people died, right? I mean, that's what you have to assume, because these numbers really don't add up to begin with, right? Because we start with like 35,000 or something like that. And now we're down to 20,000. So we have to assume 15,000 people are dead or just incapacitated, right? Because even with numbers changing size, you still have the same number that you started with. But anyway, Derby has Cypher Pole guy says he can't even picture Kaido losing anyway, you know? But then when we get that, like I said before, he was talking about Lucci in the background, who do we see? Stussy and Kaku, just like we seen back in Return to Reverie when Leo got low diffed because of the situation with Shirahoshi and I think it was Charlos, right? Because that's what Charlos was just going to take Shirahoshi. And we found out that's when we found out that Rob Lucci was in Cypher Pole, and we seen Stussy, who had just left Whole Cake Island, right? And Clap Du failed with the Shigon. So, you know, Cypher Pole is something else, man. That's all I can say about that part. And you guys know I've been talking about Cypher Pole because, again, who do we open the chapter with? We've seen Bao Huang. Well, out of all the fights, Oda made it a point to let us know that Cypher Pole was particularly interested in the Who's Who and Jinbei fight for obvious reasons, right? And by the way, you notice even in this panel, all three Cypher Pole guys are there. The Derby Hat Cypher Pole guy, the Udahara Kisuke hat guy, and the Dr. Seuss mask Cypher Pole guy. They're all still in the same room. So that means Who's Who hasn't been attended to yet, or one of them is really fast, or they have other. We don't really see Cypher Pole go out as a whole group, right? What happened in Ennis Lobby and Water 7 was a totally different situation. So it's probably not normal for all of the, more than probably 3 or 4 to be together at the same time, because most of the time in the series, similar to the Akatsuki, there's just a couple of them out there doing, handling different tasks, right? So that means who's still knocked out somewhere, or someone took care of that extremely fast. And when we first heard that Who's Who and Rob Lucci were rivals, I brought up like, hey, do they have something going on that we're not aware of, that the world government isn't aware of? Is Lucci just playing a role? Like, we know he just loves to kill and all that other stuff, but the odds of his entire existence only wanting to do this when he can gain power and do the same thing on his own, that wouldn't make any sense to me. Um, then again, Rob Lucci's a strange cat, man. And then we see the real mastermind, Hot Three, and they're just fresh. But of course, like I was just my point was that them watching the Who's Who and Rob and Jinbei fight, the other fight that they were watching, where we seen the cyber animal robot creatures that respond to Bao Huang, was the Robin fight. And I brought this up that there was no way that they weren't just gonna leave this place knowing that the Mugi Waters is here, man, and not realize that Robin is here too. Because at the end of that fight, they showed I think it was a bird in this case, not a rat, that was watching that fight. We seen it at the end where Robin passed out. And I even brought up is, are they going to go after her or Who's Who? Well, now we see it's probably both. Now, Robin is with Brooke right now. So do they split up? Does Derby Hat, because he seems to be the one to do the most talking, right? He seems like he's probably the leader, and each of the other two go to resolve each issue. Like I brought that up during that chapter a long time ago. That's more than like that. And then we see now, because he's probably has to still, Derby Hat guy still has to monitor the outcome of the fight, right? Because Lucci even tells him, you know, you need to, just report to me later. But yeah, we need to get Robin. And then we cut straight to Robin and Brooke being chased by fodder. But at least Robin is awake now. So more than likely, they will be intercepted before they get back with the rest of the crew for the time being, right? And whatever happens is going to be insane, because the Robin situation, Lucci even brings up how important she is, and nothing has changed, right? It seems like it's changed for us because we're used to how, her traveling with the Straw Hats. But at the end of the day, this is the reality of what Robin goes through. And that's kind of where the doubt was coming from, that Black Maria thought that she was going to inflict on Robin. But it's just like, I've been doing this for 20 years now. You're not going to scare me with stuff that I already know about, right? I know what my life is. I don't need you to tell me that. So whatever happens, which one goes to if they actually fight, it's going to be dope. Because since in his lobby, we haven't seen a Cypher Pole fight since. So odds are, right? I mean, Who's Who in a sense. I guess you could use him as an example, right? Because he does fight with Roku Shiki. And we know now because of that fight. And something else that Queen brings up is Army Hockey is not an answer for everything. And I like that's going to be put into play more, that just because you're strong, you got because we'll get into that. But remember, Pistol Fang could go right through Jinbei's armor hockey initially in that fight. And Jinbei started strengthening it throughout the fight. But just remember that Roku Shiki, just because you have a devil fruit, just because you got advanced armament, it's not going to matter. Roku Shiki is a formidable fighting force. The top members of the world government would not be using this fighting style if it wasn't effective. So clearly it's effective because of the type of threats they've dealt with in the past. They wouldn't implement this system into Cypherpole, who have the most important job, that's defending the world government, like literally, within arm's distance. Because we don't hear about very often these guys, world government cats getting knocked off. So regardless of what we think, at the same time, these people have been in power for long enough. So to me, it's a proven fighting style that hopefully comes more into play as the series progresses. But that's what Robin's going to be dealing with, and Brooke. So them two standing up to somebody who's Roku Shiki and whatever abilities they may or may not have, for me, they're going to put Black Maria to shame. To where what we saw with Robin, that was nothing compared to what we're probably going to have to see for them to escape that guy. Or at least get closer to the crew, or call for help, or something. Whatever they got to do. Because you can't let them take Robin, and what she means to the series. But yeah, I already know how I can talk about that alone, especially the Wano Annex thing. That is insane to me. Absolutely insane. Um, but yeah. Now we cut to Onigashima and we see that Momo is he's having a personal battle with himself because we see Yamao's not with him, right? But we do see Momo is flying, so he's been able to consistently at least get past this part with being able to stay afloat in a sense, right? Because he's not falling, he's not scared of that part no more. Now he's focusing on the flame cloud issue, and this is something I brought up with Yamato as far as her leadership. She's teaching Momo to lead without being told, in a sense, like how she initially wasn't really with the Momo. Hey, I'm gonna just go save Onigashima like that, and then she switched it up. So it's like I had brought up, was that last week that in a sense she wants Momo to feel like these are his ideas and his goals, right? And she's not hand holding him. She might give him some advice, but hey, you need to do this. But I'm not going to tell you that I'm telling you need to do it. I let you think that you know what to do. And I do appreciate that part because if you're going to try to get him to mature, he has to be able to make decisions and overcome obstacles just on his own. Nobody there. For himself to feel like there's some resolve. Because it's not like Momo doesn't know he can't beat Kaido by himself. He knows what his limitations are. So for him to have enough obstacles to where there's reasonable limitations that he can exceed, it'll help him grow personally. And he feels like it's his growth, right? And that's what would be important to Momo because of how much of an individual Odin was. Like he went against all the rules, right? As far as his behavior, how he's perceived, and everything as a whole, he didn't care. He just did him regardless, right? Remember, he was out there twerking it up for quite some time, being laughed at and called a fool. Being he still did what he decided he needed to do, and that's what Momo is trying to harness for himself. He just needs to figure it out like his own way. So he can't command them yet. That's on point, but at the same time, like I said, he has doubt in himself, but he understands like there's no time for doubt because of the conversation that he had with Luffy, and for Yamato to leave Momo alone by himself to do this, and that means somebody has to believe in you, right? The same situation with Yamato explaining to Kaido, like, no, there's people that believe in me. I don't care what you think. Someone else believes. So that's all that matters. And it's the people that I care about because that's who I'm trying to help. So that's what Momo is getting a grasp of that for himself because he's like, hey, I can't let everybody die. Like I brought up last week about that, him and his resolve. And it's just, now how Yamato plans to deal with the situation as far as the Onigashima exploding part, I'm not even sure because she doesn't make it apparent, right? How where did I write it down? Hold on. What part? What I want to talk about? How she was going to be able to stop the explosion from becoming greater? Because it doesn't. That part kind of doesn't make any sense to me. But then we don't know all of Yamato's abilities, and we see her in full Zoan form. That part was kind of weirded me out. I don't know. I guess I got used to hybrid in her normal form. Seeing her as just a straight up wolf that's for y'all. That's not, I'm not even gonna touch that, yo. Like that's just. But I wonder what the plan is because you can't just make explosives non-explosives. And if Yamato was scared of some handcuffs, not really scared of them, but you guys knew about my gripe with the handcuffs and Yamato's durability and all that situation. Now going to deal with explosions, you see what I mean? Where it's like there's certain things sometimes that don't make sense to me as far as Yamato's behavior or situations. I get the cuffs and the psychological, emotional representation of them, but from a physical standpoint, it just didn't make sense to me for Yamato to be worried about something like that. But now you're going to go deal with explosives that are way more dangerous than what those cuffs were, which I understand Yamato has heart, but I doubt Yamato will be going down there with the intention on dying. Now, I we've joked about Yamato dying, but I just assumed if that really would be the case, the potential would come from Kaido himself and what that would do psychologically to everybody in the series, including himself, what that would do and us. Um, it would just be insane, right? But if Yamato dies doing this, it would be one, her devil fruit, that would be a problem where that fruit would go after an explosion. Who knows, right? Two, you can't be on the crew if you're dead. That would be an issue. And then three, the impact it would have on what the potential is for Momo's future. Because I personally would assume Robin and Yamato would have a impact on Momo's future as a whole, right? Due to Yamato, for one, knowing Wano better than anybody else and having the journal, but and two, Robin, for obvious reasons, with the poneglyphs, and if that ability to read can be taught. Maybe not the Mason part for inscriptions, but being able to just translate at all. And then because of whatever he has going on with Zunisha, right? The connection. We've seen how the hockey, or not the hockey, but how the well tree affected Roger and Odin. The same thing would play for Momo, right? So, in a sense, there could be a possibility where he could not have Odin's skill for transcribing poneglyphs and inscribing or just reading them in general, which Robin could help with, maybe. Just again, not the masonry part because that seems like a bloodline limit. But the actual hearing of poneglyphs could be a thing for Momo later. Where, like I said, he doesn't have the technical abilities of Odin's inscriptions, but he has the ability similar to Roger, where he can at least hear the voices. And from what we've seen, the voices that you hear from the poneglyphs and the written have some difference in translation. So, yeah, that to me that was extremely interesting. Now we get into Sanji versus Queen. You already know that this was going to be a thing, right? With the Raid 2 being brought up. The fact that, first of all, they were already clashing to begin with, right? And initially, Queen wants to see the Raid 2 because he's on this tech versus tech thing, right? Because remember when he was capping about my technology in this form surpasses Vegapunk. So he sees Vegapunk and Judge as rivals to a certain extent, not just because they work together, but from scientifically speaking, like I've been talking about with Queen, you know that's like his one piece in a sense where I want to be known as the greatest of the scientists out there because I can do the virus stuff, I can do the tech stuff, like the mods he's done on his Fruiter have to be insane. We've seen it in this chapter, like whether that's inherent or not, separating from his body, clearly he's done something. Like he's done something because his neck still has the extension to it, the robotic extensions, the laser beams, all this other stuff. This is wild to me. So Sanji fighting him, this is perfect. Because Sanji doesn't even like the defense smoke thing to begin, right? And he's brought that up a couple of times. So when they clash, like he hit him with, I think Queen's move is called coffee. And it just dawned on me this morning. I'm like, well, it's a beam move. Coffee beam? So is that the joke? I don't know. It didn't hit me until this morning. But then we see the Diablo Jamble, right? Well, it knocks Queen back, but Queen goes from full zone. I mean, basically, Queen goes full zone at this point, and he just did this like in the old cartoons. Like y'all know, I bring up Looney Tunes a lot with One Piece because that's literally some of the gags. Just that's what same style, right? When he knocks Queen back, Queen does this little pointer stance that in Looney Tunes like dogs used to do when they were pointing at something. And that's what I thought about anyway. And he just looked like a dog. It was funny to me. and So when he does that, and it's almost like he's doing like what you say before you release your Bankai, right? Like that's kind of like what I was thinking about, because he's like, oh, for 100 million years, the sovereign beasts that rule the world, tear apart. Because he had the scrub in the background going like, oh, the true form of the ancient beast, Brachiosaur-Hiss, and then we see this dude's really a snake. I don't even know what to make it as being able to separate the body thing. I know he equated it to shedding his skin, and I do think it's hilarious. Like that's what I'm saying with the Looney Tunes thing. It's like Wile E. Coyote, right? When he's explaining to Sanji, like, oh, just me, my rocket launchers, even though they're not attached to my body, and he gets blown up. That to me is hilarious because it's like a play on monologuing as a whole from villains. I just thought that to me that was hilarious that they both got blasted by it. But the Bankai part, that's what I was thinking. I'm like, dude, this Food Queen has a Bankai now, basically, like with this Zoan form snake thing. And then of course Sanji's confused like we are because this is kind of like what the Sasaki helicopter thing. Like how this doesn't make any sense, right? Like even my thumbnail, this is exactly my face. This entire chapter is my thumbnail. Like I was right there next to Chopper. Like I don't get this. I know there's been heavy mods going on to this devil fruit, but man, this is insane. So, like I was saying earlier about what I was going to mention with Queen was that this form, right, the snake, how it could crush armament hockey masters. And again, we're seeing that even though we're learning about these advanced techniques when it comes to leveling up your hockey armament, specifically with like with Katakuri, and in a sense Kaido too, that on Big Mom, of course, that's not the answer for everything. Again, like I was talking about earlier in the chapter with Who's Who versus Jinbei, we've seen that it's not just because you're at the top and you got this advanced hockey, you can still get clapped. Like this task can still hurt you, right? Like a kind who put his chest through Whitebeard. Sick as he was, he still was able to do that. So there is a point where having hockey is not just the ultimate. I'm cool now. You know what I mean? But we see half of Sanji's body is crushed. And right then, we all knew what was coming. And him saying he felt odd, and we've talked about this, was the suit going to activate something? Now, the part I'm worried about for Sanji personally is he says he doesn't want to be a monster. Now, even though, like his statement about why he can burst into flames had to do with his passion as a part of his emotion. So, is the raid suit, has it done to, will it end up doing to Sanji what smile fruits do to people? Like that kind of torture. And this is like a get back for Judge, or is this something that would have happened anyway over time? I like that he's getting this durability because if you think about back when he cracked his leg on Virgo, technically his leg should have never healed. But we see he never had a loss in strength since that point in the story. So maybe this is something that in the background has been transpiring. It just isn't noticeable. I'm gonna get into a whole video about Sanji and that because when Queen cracked the sword, and Sanji just said, "Oh, that stings." It reminded me of like everybody else probably back in Whole Cake Island, where Yonji's face had to be fixed, right? And then later we see he's normal. Yonji couldn't just be normal again. He had to have his face manipulated to go back into shape. So what Sanji's got going on, clearly he's, like I've been saying, the more advanced version. But we'll get into that Monday. I hope you guys enjoyed what happened this chapter and all the crazy stuff. Like, this is me cutting it short. That's how serious this is. So, I will see y'all back here Monday or Tuesday. Enjoy y'all weekend. Actually, I was pretty see some of y'all online tonight, right? And some streams and stuff like that in Discord and wherever y'all be at. Y'all already know what time it is, man. You know what? Yeah, I'll just see y'all Monday. Enjoy your weekend. Stay safe out there. Peace.